Good evening, everyone. To everyone that's watching, I can see Jackie's here. Evening, Jackie. And somebody said evening to Jackie as well, but I don't know who you are. So if you could pop that in the comments. But welcome to tonight's interview. And sorry, due to my headaches last week, I couldn't make that happen on Thursday. So for those of you that are quite new to this, because we are streaming to our YouTube channel at the same time, I'm Victoria Wratten, the founder of EPAA. And we started an interview series with our members and some trainers we work with. And there's lots and lots of interviews coming up actually over the coming weeks. But it was to give people some inspiration, motivation, best practice, sharing lessons learned, but ultimately to hear about people's career stories. It's something I've always loved hearing when I've sat at conferences, and obviously we can't be in a room together at the moment. But I also wanted to showcase EPAA members from across different industries and sectors as well, because not everybody, as I've said before, works for a big, global FTSE company, although some people do, and not everybody works for a celebrity either, although I always find those interviews fascinating. But I wanted to give a broader scope of where EAs and PAs work and how they actually came into these roles. Evening, Laura. I hope you're well. So I'm delighted to welcome Hayley Cole to tonight's interview. How are you, Hayley?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Vic.
An absolute pleasure. I'm so pleased you put yourself up for this. I think you've got so much to share this evening, but as we always start with these interviews, and people will be watching it not just in the UK, but where are you based in the UK and who are you with in lockdown?
So I'm just outside London in a place called Cheshunt in Hertfordshire, and I am home with my husband, my 6-year-old son, and my 23-year-old cousin, who I kind of have responsibility for because her university shut.
Oh, wow. Thank goodness she had you and the family to come home to. Oh, wow. And your son, he's so unbelievably gorgeous, but he now thinks you're a celebrity in your own right.
I think that just made his year, because he was trying to find something to do with Minecraft on YouTube. He was like, Mummy, you're on YouTube. I was like, am I?
Oh, bless it. He looked pleased as punch in that picture you shared in the Facebook group, standing next to you, kind of like, here's my mum.
I don't know about the 50-inch head, but
well, I thought you looked like a movie star.
Oh, thank you.
But thank you for joining us. So we're going to chat a bit about your career, where you are obviously at the moment at BlackRock, and how you ended up there. But then after that, we'll go back right to the beginning of when you came out of school and what you wanted to do versus what you're kind of doing now. Did it meet up type thing? So I've known you when I met you through Simone, who works at BlackRock. And I just from my personal viewpoint, I found you very, very impressive as an EA, the way you carried yourself, everything you talked about. It was just so exciting. And, it was totally on the level with Sim as well. And the way you two worked together was just fantastic. And obviously I've known Sim for a number of years now. But another thing that stuck out to me last year about you was that Hayley and I were at the We Are the City, We Are Tech Women Conference. So that is a massive, massive technology conference. Whilst it may be called We Are Tech Women, men are more than welcome to attend, but it's about looking at getting women in the pipeline into leadership positions in technology as well. So that's the female aspect, but all the sessions are relevant to everyone. And I actually work at that conference. I'm always looking after all the speakers. But out of 550 people, you were the only executive assistant who came along to that event. And I just found that to be really impressive, because I've been trying to cajole EAs to coming out to more of these types of events. And I know you found it a really great day, didn't you? And said how much you were going to go back and share with peers and colleagues.
It was. I always turn up to these things thinking, oh, my goodness, should I be here? And then I'm like, yes, of course I should be here. It was following on the We Are the City, the Future Leaders Conference in May that I went to. And it just really spurred me on just to get out there and be on listen mode and see what different businesses are doing. And I think one of the things that I always think about is how do we support our businesses now, but also how do we support them in the future? We're not standing still. We've got to think that far ahead, and we've got to have kind of like the emotional intelligence to do that. Because if we stand still, we'll get left behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that conference, I mean, it probably would be overwhelming for many professions because of how big it was. But actually, I mean, there was so, even though I was working for We Are the City that day, there was so much to take away from the sessions. I mean, they covered robotics, artificial intelligence,
and the panels were amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there was some of the top tech experts in the UK. It was a really exhilarating day. So did you feel that you were able to take quite a bit back to your colleagues at BlackRock?
I felt that I did. And I went there with the funding and the support from my boss. I'd emailed saying, is there any way that I can kind of get a discount code? No one likes to stump up professional development in something. So what some people class as so far removed as to what we do.
Yeah.
And I just presented my business case to my boss. He was just like, yep. Absolutely fine. He's also an executive sponsor for a network that I'm chair of at BlackRock as well. He says, yeah, it makes sense. Go for it. No issues about being out of the office. There was a couple of sessions which went into hardcore coding, which I just sat there and it was like, whoo, completely over the top of my head. But I sat through it and I just took away that I just needed to know more about it.
Yeah. And I think I saw you networking with people, and I was watching you when I had a chance. But the fact that you're out there, and you're at a conference this big, and it's about technology, which we've been, trying to say to EAs, go to typical non-EA events. But you're representing the EA profession, not just BlackRock, when you're there. So that's who you were presenting yourself as an executive assistant. And
I actually bumped into a few staff members from BlackRock there, and it was really interesting. They were just like, "Oh, you're here." I was like, "Yep." So why are you here? And I just said, "Well, we need to know how to support our people for the future. What's coming down the pipeline technology wise." And they just said, we didn't even think about that. That's a really good stance to take.
Yeah, it's futuristic, and it's about being innovative as an EA. And when I was talking about innovation for EAs, that's what I kind of mean. And big picture thinking, it's thinking outside the box and going to events like that, and kind of getting in amongst the crowd, because actually you going out there telling people, even your own colleagues, that you're an EA, that's raising the game for all of us, and visibility for a lot of EAs, because I'm sure a lot of people would have said or thought, what's an EA doing here? But actually it is crucial. The way you've just talked about it, well, that's the reason why we have to be at these events going forward.
I think 2 years ago, it would have been the most terrifying thing, and I wouldn't have ever imagined myself putting myself out of my comfort zone to go and do that. But I think that if I'm here and I'm doing this job and I'm representing all of the EAs and the administrative staff at BlackRock, it's my duty to be able to have the most relevant information and to go back to them with it and to share what I've learned. Some people want to be in listen mode, great. Some people don't. That's also fine. But I need to be able to sleep at night knowing that I've done my best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think leading on for that, for We Are the City, you were, and congratulations, by the way, out of all those nominations, you were shortlisted in the top 10. And I know, obviously, you didn't make the final 5, but the top 10 was such a fantastic achievement.
It was amazing.
So proud of you. I just thought it was awesome to see your name up there, and I hope you go for it again next year. Or those people that nominated you do it again next year. But I was just so happy to see you there, because you've achieved a lot, and obviously we'll get to that as we go through your career story and talk about the work you've done at BlackRock. But how did you feel about all of that, the We Are the City Rising Stars?
I felt really privileged that I was actually put up for it. And it's really weird, because as assistants, we don't put ourselves out there. We don't go, oh, vote for me or come and look at me. We kind of like hustle in the shadows and make our magic happen. For me, it was just amazing, the support that I had internally, and then from my friends and family as well. And from some peers too. And because sometimes we're not very good at clapping and applauding and raising each other up, and we can always do better in that area. But the support that I had from the network was phenomenal. And if just taking away that experience of, if I thought I could sit back and just not be noticed and just kind of hide away, that I don't think that that's the case anymore. And it's really nice when someone thinks that your voice is something to be valued.
Absolutely. And I think people don't realise you'll get nominated, and then you would have received an email saying you'd been nominated. And then you have to then go and fill in a short form, as it were, kind of bigging up yourself. And
it was a short form. But yeah, and really the questions that they ask you, it really makes you think about, well, why are you here, or what are you doing? And I get that some people are not comfortable and they're more introverted and they prefer to stay kind of a step back, but that doesn't stop them supporting the people who do want to be a little bit more visible.
Absolutely. But congratulations once again. I thought that was a very impressive achievement. So BlackRock, you are an executive assistant at BlackRock. Who is BlackRock? Who do you support there? And kind of what is your role there? Because you're involved in so much and you've done so much.
It's really funny. I've been at BlackRock since the 22nd of September 2008, and my journey started when we were originally BGI. So I have a bit of a funny story how I ended up there. I was working for a crazy broker-dealers for a couple of months, and it wasn't going the way that I wanted. The guy, he didn't want to be managed, and I was like, right, okay, I think I need to start looking. And then the Lehman Brothers crashed, and I got interviewed on the day Lehman Brothers crashed. And I just remember sitting in the lobby going, this interview is just not going to happen. So I went prepared with my water, my tea, my paper, sat there for an hour waiting to be interviewed by the head of iShares at the time. And then he finally came down to get me and apologised, because at the time BGI were taking on various funds that were viable from Lehman Brothers. So we had a great 50-minute interview, and I just said, okay, so I've got some questions for you. And he was like, oh, well, okay. And then I proceeded to go on for 40 minutes. I said, I'm being really thorough. I don't want to end up working for something that's just not going to work. It has to be worth my while. I don't want to work for another crazy person. And I just want to make sure I make the right decision. Like, if we're in this, we're in it together. So I need to know what's wrong with you. Why have you gone through so many temps? Tell me about yourself. And he was so taken back that it all came rolling out. And I said at the end of it, I really appreciate your time and you actually doing that, because some people can be quite dismissive, and it should be like, you should be grateful to be coming here and interviewing for a job. And he offered me the job there and then, and I started on the Monday later, and the rest is kind of history. So I kind of jumped out of the investment banking frying pan, thinking I was going to the cozy land of asset management, and then I think it was under less than a year we ended up in an M&A situation where we were up for sale. So my holiday camp experience was very short-lived, but he was, for me, he was a true business partner. When I came on board, it wasn't, well, you can only deal with certain areas, or you only do the diary and you pick up the phone. It was a true partnership, and I think that's the only way it would have worked.
Absolutely. So you've been there since, God, I mean, the start of the recession. I mean, that's quite incredible, really.
The day of the downhill.
Yeah, and I don't think, I mean, especially for those of us in the city at the time, I remember because BlackRock was, I don't know whether they still are now, but was Hayes's biggest investor. And I remember us all in the CEO kind of saying, I'd only been at Hayes a couple of months then, and I'd never been through a recession before. And so he kind of got us all around reception around the big TV, and it was just all kind of the news was piling in and people were walking out with boxes and Lehman Brothers had crashed. And I was kind of like, whoa, what does this mean for us, you know, working in corporate and that type of thing. And yeah, it was, I think it was a very interesting time, but it was an interesting time to be an EA in the same company through that entire period.
It was a bit crazy because I just thought, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I'm ahead of the curve, because there's just going to be an influx of really good talent coming onto the market. And
Yeah.
a week later, I might not have even had the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was all good timing on your part. So are
Yeah.
you still with the same boss now, kind of all these years later? Because
So
it's 12 years, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay.
He left the company, I think it was like a year and a half after the merger. And I'm still in the same department. So I'm still in the ETF departments, but we've got a slightly different name now. And yeah, it's home for me. But I've been given the opportunity to do so many different things. So I started off supporting, at the time, the EMEA CEO, fine, and then his management team. But it would be the case of I would be expected to be in all of the management meetings, and all of the executive committee meetings. Because I was the executive assistant, and
Yeah.
if I didn't have ears on it, then how am I meant to support any of them? Also, they wanted a feed into the people. They wanted a temperature checker on the ground. And never at any point did I ever feel that I couldn't actually tell them how it really was, or if there was a personnel situation, obviously being very discreet, very delicate. It's just, or just to point blank tell them that they were wrong in a direction that they were going in regards to their people, and actually maybe we might need to look at different things or include a few more people to kind of have a bit more of a range of thoughts.
So I mean, BlackRock's an American company. How big is the firm?
Humongous. I think we're at 16,000 worldwide at the moment.
Whoa. And how many of those are in the UK, roughly?
So I think we have a couple of offices in the UK. Our main office is in Throgmorton Avenue, and I think we're between 3,500 upwards in our building. So there's a fair few of us, and we have lots of people based out through continental Europe as well. So it's a massive operation. It's classed as the world's largest asset manager.
So I mean, I've been to your offices a couple of times in Throgmorton Avenue, and they are absolutely, I love them, and I love the views of London. And when we're up on the higher
We
floor,
always get you the best room, Vic.
I know. This is what I love about coming to see you and Sim. I love my views. But how's the transition been for you? We've asked everybody this, especially during lockdown, of being in those lovely offices with great colleagues to now working from home. And it was almost an overnight thing. Was it quite easy for BlackRock to make that transition, or were you already part working from home already?
So I work from home 2 days a week.
Okay.
And have, since I came back from maternity leave in 2014, I've had some kind of flexible working agreement. So for the first year, I worked 4 days a week. For the second and third years, I worked 5 days a week, but one from home. And the last 2 years, I've been doing 2 days a week from home, usually a Tuesday and a Thursday, but completely flexible as to what the business needs are. If we have things going on, or if I'm involved in conferences, then I just change with a bit of notice. I can sort out my childcare, and I can make it work. And that's my boss and my team, with us all being in tune with each other, knowing we'll do what we need to do, but being mindful of people's personal situations as well. So for me, I was semi set up from here. So I had my laptop. I'm really lucky. We moved a couple of years ago. So I've got an office space, which is an absolute godsend. So I am able to close the door, and then if my husband's with my son, just kind of leave them to it. But as the time was going on, I've kind of got a second screen. I've kind of set myself up a bit better, and firing on all cylinders. But it's been tough because I really love my people, and they've been part of my life for this is the second decade now. So I think I'm in my 11th year, and it's they're part of my life, and I see these people every day, and I've gone through major life events with them as well, and that I miss them dearly. But I'm really glad that everyone is safe, and we were able to do it quite swiftly, and not have that many issues. I think it's mindset issues more so than infrastructure issues. Some people just do not like working from home, but when you don't have a choice, I'm very, very grateful for BlackRock making it happen for all of us.
And that, I mean, BlackRock, I've always known they've been absolutely brilliant on technology and very, very innovative as a company. And from all the time I've spent up there, I mean, let's put it this way: whenever I come to speak at BlackRock, I'm never worried about the technology in comparison to some hotels I've come to, and everything falls down. It kind of doesn't surprise me that BlackRock was able to make that transition really quite smoothly by the sounds of it.
Our IT guys, they have kind of performed miracles over these last months, and they're like, even the people based in London, like, we miss them. They support us and our people when they're on the road, when they're in the office with trading systems. I've known those guys for years as well. So it's a bit funny. Not like we've got the AV team, and we've got kids who are grown up at the same rate, and it's kind of, I do miss the human element. I also do miss being at home on my own, because my son's usually in school. So I really try to schedule as far as I can the days that I'm at home. They're my kind of creative and my thinking days and my doing days, where I know I won't get any interruptions. And I try to schedule myself as best as possible to have that brain space to think of what needs to be done, think of what needs to be done for the networks that I work on. Just having that freedom of kind of not feeling like you've got monkeys and ants running through your brain or doing the tango in there. That's one thing I've really struggled with, because I have a house full of people all the time now.
Yeah, and I think actually you hit on something quite important, that although a lot of British society has been hampering to work from home for years, and have that more of that flexibility and not have these long commutes, etc., we forget about the camaraderie and some of the fun stuff that happens with our colleagues in the office. I mean, one of the things I've always missed about working in the city was that, oh, should we go for a drink tonight, or go for somewhere nice to eat, or why don't we all just pile into the theatre, or kind of stuff that just happens after work, that you don't necessarily always plan in, but it just happens, and the fun you can have in the office. And I've, like you said, we've been through life's trials and tribulations with a lot of our colleagues, especially when you've been at the same firm for a while. They've seen
my goodness, some of these ladies that I work with, I haven't been able to breathe without them. They've just been so supportive, and they're kind of like my little urban family. And I treasure them dearly. Like, we all have our jobs, but like, you can't be in the same proximity as some people for 10 years and not have a bond with them.
Absolutely. I mean, some of my closest friends now are people that I've met at work since I've been in the workforce since 16. And, I wouldn't have met them had I not have been in those roles. So there's a lot to be said for work, isn't there? And the office, as much as we all take the mick out of it from time to time, and to have a little complain about the office politics and stuff like that grinds us down. I think when this is all over, which obviously we're a way off that, I think that a lot of people will want to do some sort of group hug or something. Something even
where we are.
So it'll be interesting to see what it kind of looks like in the future. But you've hit on some really important points, and I think, certainly from my perspective, mentally, I always had more energy when I was working in the city. I had more energy when I was with my colleagues in meetings, bouncing ideas off. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I've been used to remote working for quite some time now, but I totally got what you were saying, and I think it is a really important point that's actually starting to be pulled up in the press now about the benefits of there being offices. And actually, it's not just about going in, turning up and doing your actual day job. What is the other stuff that comes out of that?
And for me, it allows me to deliver for work, for my family, for myself, and not feel like I'm going completely insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of, I moaned about corporate dressing over the years, but there is part of that I just really love. Putting on those smart clothes, going to work, and all that good stuff.
I know. We went to dress down. Is that no? That don't think that's the correct term. Casual dress policy. So if you were seeing clients, you had to dress normally in business attire, but if you're not client facing, we can go in jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So I kind of saw my power dressing wardrobe dwindle over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I heard a lot of charity shops have had quite a lot of corporate gear given to them in recent times, prior to COVID as well. So you mentioned you're involved in some networks at BlackRock. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
One of my absolute passions and my loves is our global administrative network called GAIN, and we have a wonderful global chair, Sim, and I think it's 18 months ago I assumed the responsibility of the EMEA network as we went global, and everyone's positions and responsibilities changed. So it was a really, really good opportunity for me to really get to know our people and really get out of my comfort zone and having to talk to, I don't usually have an issue talking to senior people, but when you're out there and we want to make sure our profession's recognised for what we do. Some people get it and some people don't. And it's the ones where you've got to do a bit of convincing. And it really brings me a lot of happiness to be able to work with all of them. And these are, we've specifically made it a truly inclusive gathering of ladies from everywhere in our region. So we've got people from Frankfurt, from Zurich, from Budapest. We didn't want to be a London-centric network.
Yeah.
And what we do is we design training for assistants, by assistants. We go out to business partners and set up training in regards to the business areas. So we have our principals as a business, and we make sure we always tie into them. We do a lot of work with our travel department. We try to do as many networking events as we do, and it's just a safe space for all of the assistants at BlackRock to know that they've got somewhere to come to if they need anything, from something difficult to something simple. We've got about 18 people on our steerco. I co-chair with another wonderful lady called Constanza, and she's based out of Zurich. So we really wanted to make sure we were really well-rounded and covering everybody. And it's just a delight to bounce off of her and bounce off of Tim, and we really challenge each other, and we don't give each other an easy time. And we really make, like, if we're going out with an offering of training or guidance or something in regards to well-being, we want to make sure it's the best offering that we can have. So we'll critique each other, and we'll make sure that we're doing the best that we can, because it's our duty to do that. If we put ourselves in that position to advocate for people doing what we do, we need to do the best that we can do.
And do you feel like having that internal network, has it helped raise the kind of visibility of the profession? Because you and I both know that, you know, what's worked well in BlackRock and when I was at Hayes, actually, you know, there's groups of assistants in other firms that are not, you know, seen in that light and are still desperately trying to get recognition, you know, people to understand what they're delivering for the company.
Yeah. And that is still a challenge. So we originally started off as a regional network, not hooked up to any of our global offices. And then a couple of years ago, there was a necessity for us, if we wanted to be heard properly, we needed to speak as one voice, and that meant us globally. So we now have four. So we've got two networks covering the US. Two chapters, should I say, covering the US. We've got an APAC chapter and an EMEA chapter. And we come together, we all coordinate as chairs, we all coordinate as committees, we share information. It's a good way to get to all of your people. And especially when we were all set to working from home, it was getting people up to speed on systems, WebExes, just checking in and making sure people were okay. And I think as a network, we were able to do that really well. And we were able to do that really well for our own departments and people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just been, you know, having been in to present to some of your population before, and I know some of them were patched in globally through the screen, and that was a few years ago now. But there are some networks now kind of scrambling to see what technology they can use, but presumably because of the geographical spread, you've always been, well, had to use technology to make this network.
Yeah.
And
I think also what is good is because we don't all work in the same business areas. And I may innocently say, oh, well, WebEx is the best, but then we may have another assistant say, oh, actually, no, I sit in this area and I know about this piece of technology. So we might want to look into that. And I think where we're all not the same, and I think this is really crucial, where we're all not the same, we all have different experiences and we all have different feedback. It's just making sure we tap into all of that.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned networks. Are there any other networks you're involved in there?
I'm on I work for the I&D committee for our division.
Okay.
And I was really surprised this year that I was asked to lead a work stream. And it's something that I was just totally overwhelmed that they'd even asked me, because the lady who was earmarked to lead it was a director. And due to capacity issues, she had to drop out. And then the head of the committee asked me if I would like to take on the inclusion dialogues work stream. And I said, yes, it feeds a lot into what we do at Gain. Plus, I just think it's really important that I'm an assistant, but I'm a leader, and people can see that. And I think where I've built my network and interacted with different people because of Gain and because of just sitting on the I&D committee, they can see what I'm passionate about, and then they can see that I deliver. So I'm really excited about working on that. And we've got a huge topic in the pipeline around flexible working and agile working. And we're just doing a massive data gather on that. And because it is inclusion dialogues and it can't just be one static project, we're also very in tune as to what's going on in current affairs. So we're currently looking into having an inclusion dialogue around race, because it's a very big grey area. More conversation needs to be had around it. And this is a good place to start, and it's a safe place to start, and we've got a lot of senior leaders and support that we can tap into. So we're just in the process of putting that together, because I think it's really appropriate at the moment in regards to what's going on in the US. There's been various protests in the UK, and I just think it needs to be addressed.
I think you're very right on that. I mean, I'd love to say it's been shocking what's been going on in the US and obviously the protests here, and it is shocking, but this sort of stuff has happened before. And I'm not going to talk too much on it in that I'm not an expert. And, I've got my own thoughts and feelings, but it was very, very upsetting to see that video. But I felt that, me and my family felt we had to watch it, as distressing as it was. But you're right, there's still a lot of discussions that need to be having at a company level. There's still lots that has to go on, that has to happen. And I remember a few years ago listening to an expert on diversity and inclusion at actually one of the We Are the City conferences. And she was saying it was about really, talking the talk, but walking the walk, that too many firms were undertaking initiatives to kind of tick boxes for the annual report to make themselves look good. But actually, how many people was it actually helping and supporting? Was we moving this along? And I think the reality of it all is that certainly in the working world, no, we haven't really. And we're still having conversations there that were had 10 years ago, even though we've got the stats and facts. And having been part of a few diversity and inclusion groups at various companies, I've always found that a big frustration. It's like, how can we just move this along now and stop having the same conversation time and time again, and ticking these boxes for the shareholders for the annual report? And actually,
and this is the thing. When I took on the inclusion dialogues, I was just like, so what do you really want? Because if I'm going to throw myself into this, it's the whole body or nothing. And I just need to know, am I going to get so far and pull back, or what's going to happen? They've given us our full support, their full support. So I'm really interested, and we have humongous, very public support from our senior management team over LinkedIn, and they're not afraid to use their voice. And I think what that shows me is that I shouldn't be afraid to use mine.
And
having, some people say, oh yeah, well that person's a CEO or that person's a senior leader and they've got the platform to do it. Your platform can be one person. You have to speak your truth, and you just need to, do you know what I mean, back yourself up. And it's okay to talk. I don't expect everyone to agree with everything that I say or any topic that I bring up personally or professionally. But what I do think is that we've got to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, and I think this is a real natural area for you to be involved in, because it's something you're so passionate about. And frankly, I'm pleased to see somebody who's also an executive assistant. We keep saying to EAs, don't we? And Sim said it as well in her speeches over the years, that everybody's got to try and get involved in other areas of the business. And actually, there are natural areas of the business where we are all quite passionate about. And and that could be different. It could be IT for some people, getting involved in these initiatives and committees like you have. And that was a natural thing for me. I gravitated towards networks where it was actually helping collective groups of people, and in the companies I've worked. But it's such a natural thing. And the fact that you've got a big voice as well, and that's what you should have as an EA. It's a shame that I think so many EAs lack confidence that you've clearly got.
It's confidence, and this isn't something that I woke up with. This is something that I would say I've developed over the years, and it's pushing my own boundaries, and it's what's the worst that could happen. And definitely. Do you know what I mean? Like, I used to have this massive fear about losing my job. What would I do? Would I ever get another job? Am I hireable? And then I went through a couple of situations a few years ago, and I was like, no, I can't. I need to be able to say what I feel, own what I feel, and it's okay if you don't agree with me. But I've got me, and it's okay. If you don't like what I'm saying, or if you don't agree, that's also fine. But don't try to shut me down. Everyone's entitled to have their say.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, it's kind of, I think people can be very confident as well. And then something happens in life, whether that's, I've known uber confident EAs, or something's happened in their personal life, or they've been, for example, bullied at work. and that's kind of brought them back down to that level again, where you're having to then rebuild yourself back up. And like you said, it's not something that comes naturally to a lot of us, but I think it's taking that step by step and knowing your own worth and what you bring to the table. And really, you as an EA bring an awful lot, not just to the profession, but to BlackRock as well. And I think that's a testament to your long career there.
I have to spend a lot of time there. If I can't be myself, then who am I being?
Yeah,
I would say I wouldn't say I'm emotional. I would say I've learned to tailor my responses sometimes, because sometimes I will veer towards the more emotional than the unemotional. And then if I know I need to respond to something, I'll be very calm and I'll work through it, and then I'll extract parts of the emotion. But there's been times where I've had conversations with my bosses and I've just been like, no, I'm just like, I'm human. I've cried in front of my boss. It's just that they've supported me through a lot of my life, and a lot of these people are my friends as well. And I think we need to support each other on a human level. We've all got business to do and we've all got jobs to do, but first and foremost, we're humans.
Yeah, and life happens. You know, it potentially gets in the way sometimes. I think there is a great saying for that, although it's escaped me at the moment. But going back to 16-year-old Hayley, so what were the aspirations then? I mean, you know, obviously when we're all kids, I wanted to be an astronaut at one stage, and actually I'm petrified of space now. Watching Gravity, the film, made me feel sick. But what were your kind of hopes and dreams back then? You're coming out of school. Did you go into college, university, or did you come straight into work?
So I wanted to be on the West End stage, kicking my heels up. Yes.
I didn't know that about you.
I went from about 10 or 11. My parents enrolled me into a theatre school at my insistence, and I started off doing acting on a Friday night, and then I added the singing, then I added the dancing. And I would say the dancing wasn't the most natural thing that comes to me, but I worked really hard at it so I could keep up. And it was a big family affair. So we had a performing arts school called Bowden's near us, and my parents were part of the family committees, so the Friends of Bowden's. So my mum was a chaperone, my dad would be one of the wing managers, my sister would be on lights, and I'd be on the stage. And so it was just such a great way to grow up, and I would say fostering my confidence came from that. And if I'm too scared to do anything, I'm like, it's a show, just get on with it. Just get out there, do what you need to do, and then you can absolutely lose your stuff in the back after, but you need to get out there and deliver. And I think that's one of the things I've carried with me to this very, very day. You can't back out of a show. So I loved it. And I wanted to study performing arts, and I started training with a dance teacher. And then I had an injury when I was at college when I was 16 years old, and I fractured my back, and it put paid to everything. And I was out of action for a pretty long time. I managed to complete my business studies qualification I was doing at college, in the hall on crash mats. But I didn't going to university didn't really factor in for me, because I was laid up for a good few years. And then when I was kind of ready and back on my feet, I was like, wow, I can't just sit around doing anything. And I had a friend called Lorraine, and she worked in the City of London. She was the only broker on her desk, female broker. She said, come to the city, it's so much fun. And there's 19, 20-year-old me going, okay, so I need to get some experience. So I worked in a local finance company for 6 months, and then started interviewing in town. And I got my first job with Thomson Reuters. And that's how my city journey began. And I had a lot of fun, it being the heyday. And yeah, it was amazing. I remember when the Eurex stock exchange launched. I was at the launch party. So I've been around for a while. So yeah, that's the start of my city journey. And I would say at Thomson Reuters, I made some of the best friends, and they are lifelong friends till now. But that's how I ended up in the city. If I couldn't be in the West End stage, I needed to be on the city stage.
I like it. I like it. And of course you said it was a lot of fun, but that's why I think a lot of us, I mean, you know, I was born in London, I think you were as well. There was always that draw about working in the city, you know, and when you got into it, it was playing hard and fast. I mean, everyone worked really hard, but you played hard as well after work. And quite honestly, I was giggling the other day with some former colleagues. We don't know how we used to go to work in the morning. On a couple of hours sleep, and be like, oh yeah, we're back to business again, and then we're back out again the next night. It was just,
I had a nickname called Plus One. My friend always had a plus one because she was the only female broker, and she was like, well, I'm not going on my own, so I'm bringing my plus one. So we went to parties, everything, and it was so much fun, and we had so many great experiences. We went to so many amazing places. And then you'd get in at 5, get up at 6, jump in the shower, and off you go again.
Do you know what? I think I'll always treasure those memories and remember the energy I had at that time as well. So, I mean, that was just, as I said, a really, really awesome time. But what happened after Thomson? Where did you go from there?
So after Thomson Reuters, I ended up at DWS Investments, which used to be Deutsche Asset Management. And I was only there for a year because they were winding everything up and sending it back to Germany. Okay. And I was the sales assistant there. So we did a lot of corporate entertaining. This is when you could actually entertain your clients and take them out and do stuff. So I was always there holding the purse strings. Being the fun police, as some people said, making sure no one got into trouble. So we do things like Henley and Ascot and theatres and tennis, just everything. And then they started winding things down and they made us all redundant. And I got on a plane to Australia. So I went to Australia for a couple of months, came back, I got hired back into Deutsche in their energy team. Worked there for a couple of months, and then I went off to Thailand. I'm out of here.
How long did you go there for? I mean, I've been to Thailand a couple of times on holiday, and I mean, it is paradise.
It's amazing. I think I was there for about 6 weeks.
Wow.
Just before the tsunami hit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I came back, and I ended up at Deutsche again. Which was quite funny. So I just kept on bouncing back to Deutsche Bank. I think where I knew all the systems and I knew a couple of people, they were just like, yeah, she can just slot right in and get on with it. Plus, I'm a night owl. I do some of my best work at the oddest hours, and they will never be 7 a.m. in the morning.
That's me, by the way. That's me.
But 2 o'clock at night, I am great. So I doing these hours, and sometimes you had to keep time with your bankers. So that wasn't an issue for me. I could do an all-nighter and last on next to no sleep and do it all again the next day. And then I was working with a couple of guys there, and they were moving on, and I adored working for them. They, again, included me in everything, and I really managed them around the world to get their business done. So they were planning on going to Credit Suisse. So I went to Credit Suisse. So I got there about 2 months before them. So when they arrived, they were out the door the next day. There was no messing around or anything. Yeah. I got there, set up for them, and I had such a great experience. I wasn't too sure about working in Canary Wharf because it was really difficult for me to get to. But once I was there, it was fantastic. Yeah. But we worked some hardcore hours there in the energy team. It was like, if you wake up in the morning and you can see something's leaked into a river in Spain, you know, you need to run to the office because that's one of your clients. but I got a lot of experience there. I worked for an amazing man called Robert Mansley, and he was the head of renewable energy, and it was all very new at the time. And he was, I think he was just freshly made a director. So there was no precedence as to how this all worked because it was all so brand new. So we did some really amazing work. We did some really high profile round tables, and he just let me get on with it. And we gelled really, really well. And we trusted each other. And that's when great work happens, when there's trust between the two people that are integral to the team.
Yeah.
And when he's on the road, I want to make sure his people are okay. So it just all worked really, really well. And then we got into a very odd situation there. We had a very strange business manager who wanted to rule all the assistants. Yeah, it left a really bad taste in my mouth. Yeah. It's like, it was just really unpleasant. And I always said that if I ever get the opportunity to, I'm not even going to say manage, work with individuals, or we all coordinate together, or I coordinate, I will never do it like this woman did it, because she managed to disjoint everything. So I ended up leaving, and I would say like she was a massive part of the reason. Yeah. It was more of keeping people in their place than raising people up and elevating them, and I didn't agree with that. And I was on the PA network at Credit Suisse as well, and everything we were saying in the network she didn't stand for, and it was a really sad day when I left. I was just like, I adored the people I work with, but I don't have a control over part of my life and my career, and I can't get good with that. No. And that's when I ended up moving to a small broker dealers, again in the energy sector, which was a really funny experience because at that point my CV looked quite robust, and I didn't have to go to an agency. They came and saw me for coffee, and I was like, what is this? Do you not want me to do a typing test? What's going on? They're like, oh, no, it's fine. We'll come and see you. I was like, I don't understand. But it was a great stepping stone. I think it really showed me what I don't like. And after about 6 months, it was time to move on. And that's when I ended up at BGI/BlackRock. And that's where my BlackRock journey began.
I mean, I had no idea that you wanted to be in the West End.
I was devastated. I loved it. I love a song and a dance. I love musical theatre. I live for it. I can probably recite every word from The Phantom of the Opera, Hamilton, Wicked, everything.
You go to the West End Theatre quite a lot whilst you've been working in London?
I've been to quite a few ballets because quite a few of our execs have boxes, and when they don't get to use them, they're just like, oh, season tickets, anybody? Yeah. Not so much. I found it really hard after I got injured. I found it really hard watching what everyone else was doing when I should have been doing it with them. So I didn't go for a very, very long time.
Yeah, it was coming to terms with that aspect of your...
Yeah. Plus, I couldn't sit on the chair because my back was completely messed up. So it was just like, well, I felt really sad about going because I wanted to be up there with them, and then I physically couldn't sit there. So, but when I did, it was like going home. I love the smell of the theatre. It's fantastic.
You know what I do, and I literally, I mean, I love going to the theatre and the West End anyway. There's some magic about it. I mean, everybody that's been in the West End theatres have always said that. And I mean, I've lost count of the amount of shows and plays I've seen over the years. And even after coming out the city again last year, you know, me and my husband, we still try to get back and go and enjoy a theatre and a good meal somewhere. So I'm really looking forward to when lockdown is fully over and to go back and support that bit of London, because it's something that is...
I think the arts and the creatives, and you've seen so much free stuff come on the TV, and Sky and all these channels are just opening up and sharing, and Andrew Lloyd Webber. And it's just, I've got that tingle in my bones, and I need to get there. And I don't care, I'll sit there and sing full pelt.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I had the opportunity to see Hamilton, which was
You?
amazing, which was very last minute. One of my colleagues, my lovely Tiz, was like, I've got a ticket. Can you go? And I'd already arranged my childcare because, well, I was setting up some Christmas drinks. And I was just like, yes, I'm coming. And then I was hooked.
There is, I mean, like I said, there is a kind of magic about it, and it's something I always found good as a wind down. Actually, after a tough day in the city, having that to look forward to, and at Hayes, we ended up becoming a bit. Me and one of the other EAs becoming a bit of a social committee because we were single back then, and we started booking. Should we go to the theatre after payday? And then a few more EAs come along, and then other people in head office that Hayes found out about it, and then there'd be groups of like 15 of us going. So we'd get those, there's £30 meal and a show deal. So we did quite a few of those, and one of the fun ones was Rock of the Ages. Actually, we went to see, but it was such a great way of kind of connecting with colleagues after work, and and just organically coming together to go to something we all enjoyed. And it's something that, I'll definitely be back supporting the theatre industry, and when it's back up and running, whenever that is, probably be the latter part of this year, next year, I would have thought.
Should have EPA the musical.
We could easily do that with some of the talent in our membership. I'll tell you, we've got singers and all sorts, even on our board. Katie sung at my wedding last year. Absolutely beautiful. She sung Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World, in kind of opera style. It was just, we were all in bits. Here I am trying to look like this poised bride, trying not to break down. And and Dania as well, she sings professionally on top of her very busy EA role working for Sufjan, who's a very busy entrepreneur. So we've definitely got enough talent just within the EPA membership to do EPA the show at some point or another. But in terms of your looking back over your EA career and coming to the end of our interview now, I could literally talk to you for hours. But are there any lessons learned from your perspective, anything you want to pass on, and any tips on best practice on how you operate as an EA?
I think if it feels wrong, it usually is wrong. Go with your gut. It's so easy to feel like you can't speak up because there are more senior people in the room, or you don't have the confidence to. But if you feel that you have the need to do so, always go with your guts. I'd say I'm not necessarily won a many popularity contest, but I've always kept to if it's wrong and it looked.
Oh, I think we've lost her there. Hopefully she'll come back in a second.
At least I know I've done the right thing. Yeah. And it's doing the right thing. And you can take that from work and to your professional life. Oh, Vic, you're wheeling. Still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. You're frozen to me. Oh, you're moving now, Hayley.
Oh, I'm here. Okay. I would say for best practice, you've got it. You know your stuff. You know your job. Be confident in your role. Be confident. You're the professional at what you do. And you have to know that you don't have to worry about being told to do anything. Like, we have to deal with so many different scenarios. We have to people manage. We have to take a room temperature. We need to have a crystal ball stuffed up our sleeve. Just have confidence in what you do. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops. That's fine. But just, you know what I mean? Just believe in yourself in a good way.
Yeah. And
we have crises of confidence. And I think any person will. But do you know what I mean? Just hold your course.
Yeah, and I think that's some very, very sage advice that will resonate with so many EAs and PAs out there watching this live or on the recording. My screen still seems to be okay. You've frozen a little bit, Hayley. Hopefully you'll come back in a second. But I've really, really enjoyed interviewing you over this last hour. It's been fascinating to get to know more about you and to learn where you've come from and your journey into becoming an executive assistant. I don't know whether you can still hear me, Hayley. You're still frozen. But I can't thank you enough, as I said, for the last hour and everything you've shared. It's such a fascinating story, and the fact that your career journey was a forced change of direction as well, and how you've just kind of rolled with it, and how you kind of worked on your confidence levels and put yourself up, for things like networks and committees and that kind of thing. It's what Adam Fiddler and I often talk about, having a seat at the table, and that's the types of work we mean. So we are at the end of this interview now, and we have lost Hayley completely, but that's okay. I think we've heard everything pretty much that I wanted to ask her tonight. But as ever, we've got more interviews coming up this week with various EAs and also network leaders. So please patch in on Thursday to hear Daniel. I think we've got Hayley back. Let's just, you're back.
What happened there? I'm sitting for a booster.
You were frozen for a good minute. I don't know whether you heard me, but I was thanking you for sharing your career story and the fact that you did have this other dream, and that something happened, and for health reasons you couldn't carry on that, and then you've just charted down a different road, and I think that's really admirable that you've kind of, as we say in the UK, pulled your socks up and got on with it, and there's a lot to be said for that. I think, and everything you've achieved and putting yourself up and having a seat at the table, as Adam and I often say. And that is getting involved in committees where there's a natural passion to do so, or, having a voice on behalf of your department or your exec. That's all what it takes to be a successful EA in today's world. But it's been so fascinating. I knew a fair amount about you, but I didn't know about that West End background and starting off
hidden behind all my power suits.
Yeah, it's been really, really fascinating. Esther was just saying thanks so much, Hayley. Josh, obviously we were talking lightly on race earlier, but he says we need to see more representation when it comes to people of colour. Absolutely agree, and that was the point I was trying to make earlier, was that we've been having these conversations for a long, long, long time now, and this should have happened already. And who knows what will come out of what's happening now, but in terms of the workplace, we definitely need to see more representation, and I sincerely hope that happens very, very soon. And I have to be honest with you, at the start of my career, when I knew I was going to be supporting CEOs and directors, and I honestly thought there would have been more people of colour in terms of the leaders I was supporting. And that didn't sadly happen. Now I'm a business owner, but what I will say is that some of my biggest advocates and supporters and mentors for me actually have been women of colour, and they've been with me on my journey. And I hope people are not offended by me saying that, but they've literally been there when I've been on the floor thinking I can't be a small business owner, and they're elevating me back up again. So whilst I didn't have that in my career, seeing what Josh was saying, having, that representation in terms of leadership and CEOs and executive teams, I've definitely had it since I've become a small business owner, being around that. But I really, really hope to see this move on now. And I think, you agree.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think you're still there, but I think you would agree with that as well, Hayley, that these conversations have been happening for a long time, haven't they?
Yes, they have, and I just think we have to continue, but we can't just go around in circles. We've got to have a change and move forward. What that looks like, I don't know, but we've got to start somewhere. Definitely. So it's great to see, as I said, that you've got, you're involved in the Inclusion and Diversity Committee and having that voice there.
you know, and not just as a woman, but as an executive assistant as well. So, as I said, it's very, very inspiring.
One of the delightful things was another assistant joined us on the committee, and it's been delightful having her there. I've known her for years, and it's just we're getting to work with each other on some great stuff, and it's amazing, and it's just more of us. Do you know what I mean? It's diversity of thought. It's that you need all people from all walks and all backgrounds, and it just creates a completely different dynamic. And it's something that needs to happen.
Yeah, and you sitting on the committee as an EA would have inspired others to start thinking about how can I get more involved, and am I capable of doing this as well? So that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to do these interviews, because that naturally, you know, hearing from EPA members and all the different backgrounds that you all come from and the different walks of life and how you've entered the profession, it's actually really, really inspiring to other people, no matter where you are in your career, whether you're very junior and have only been in the role a few years, or whether you're more senior now and looking for a bit of a change of direction and who you work for and what sort of boss you want going forward.
Absolutely, and you have the choice. It's your choice who you work for, and if you inherit someone, you don't have to keep them. Do you know what I mean? You have power and control over your career. It doesn't mean that you just get what you're given.
Yeah, and absolutely don't settle for second best. And I've done that for very short periods in my career a couple of times, and I've moved on, because as we often joke at the EPA conferences, it's your movie, your career, and you've got to chart it, you know, the way is right for you, and about following that gut instinct. Yeah. Well, thank you again for offering yourself up to do this tonight.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing who comes up next.
Well, we've got Daniel on Thursday, who leads the West Midlands PA Forum, and Jackie, I know, is put herself up to be interviewed, and so is Callie as well, and Helen. So we've literally everybody that offered to do it, we're going to bite their right arm off and get them doing this. So it's not as frightening as we thought it might have been.
If you can do it here, then you can go into any meeting. You can go sit anywhere, do anything, raise your hand. I'd say go for it.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you, and I hope you're going off to have a glass of wine or a gin.
Throw my 6-year-old in bed or the bath at least. Well, thank you so much for having me, Vic.
Oh, a pleasure. Well, I'm now being on a healthy week, so water, and I've been trying for the last half an hour not to sneeze, but we're not even supposed to be touching our noses these days, are we? But
you're indoors, you're fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm on a healthy week, so I'll enjoy the rest of my water and then green tea later. But thank you, everybody, for who's joined us this evening, and thanks again, Hayley.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. See you later.
Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye.